Guys, episode 4 of Loki, titled The Nexus Event, has to be one of my favorite episodes on the Disney Plus series thus far. And in order to talk about it, I had to have back one of my favorite humans ever. Please welcome back to the podcast the saltiest person on the internet, Mr. Scott Free.
Oh, thank you for having me. But everybody knows you are the saltiest person on the internet.
I'm probably the drunkest person on the internet, to be very clear. Oh, look at what is she drinking tonight?
It is, as usual, beer. It is, I'm trying to be healthier. It's Dogfish Head Slightly Mighty, low-cal IPA.
Is it low-cal IPA?
Yeah. And in honor of the Loki episode, I have my pint glass from Asgard Brewing in Columbia, Tennessee. So there we go. I don't know if I can drink with the crown on, but we'll see.
Oh my God. So if you're listening to this episode on podcast platforms, Mr. Scott Free is dressed up as Loki, Lowkey, Loki. And I mean, do you want to walk us through your ensemble right now?
Yes, I've got the Loki, Lowkey shirt from I think it's Loki. It's number 2, issue 2 of the 2019 series. When he's like casual, just being like a casual god of mischief. And instead of going with like the small crown that you see on like the series right now, I decided to go with like the full big like buck like antlers. You have to establish who the dominant Loki is, and like what better way than with the biggest horns possible.
All right, so she's Dom Loki tonight.
Yeah, I mean you know what? That's probably the nicest way to put it. So with that.
You look great. I'm not a big reader of the Loki comics, to be very clear. I didn't know this was actually based off of an actual outfit he wore in the comics, because I've seen the image floating around the internet, of course, but I thought it was a fan art that someone drew. And I just Googled it as you were talking. And yeah, I mean, he really does wear that, as you said.
Yeah, it was I think the 2019 series was pretty short. It was only like 5 or 6 issues. But yeah, got it in there. Good luck. It's just like doing stuff on Earth. Wasn't as good as like there's the big 2014 Loki series, Agents of Asgard.
Yeah.
Show draws a lot from. But this was also good, just like short, and I think it got kind of screwed over by Marvel doing all these like events like Empire and all that other shit, King in Black and all that stuff. So
I'm looking at the art right now. I mean, you genuinely do look like him. I mean, he's got like the muscles, he's got the attitude. I mean, good call on the cosplay.
Thank you. And the best part is like I'm not sweating through like 5 layers of spandex, which is always ideal.
And you got the shirt off of Etsy, is that what you said too? Or did you make it yourself?
No.
Did she print it herself? Did she go to like Kinko's? Does Kinko's even print shirts?
There's one way to find out. No, if I made it myself, it would be like black Sharpie, like it'd be backwards. I actually got it off a Redbubble, but I think Disney has been
cracking down on that.
Cracking down on a lot of creators to protect their IP. So I might have gotten this in just before the
before the onslaught.
Yeah.
The Disney legal onslaught. Yeah, I was talking to Art of Lucas, and I just ordered, he did a custom shirt for us, and it's Space Gene. And I ordered the poster of it, and I messaged him. I was like, wow, this quality is like really great. Like the poster, like the print, everything. It's like matted. And I didn't think he knew because I just assumed he uploads the images and none the wiser, But no, he's actually like gotten stuff himself. And one of them was this poster that he had done a couple years ago with the X-Men on it, but Disney had forced them to take it down. And I was like, man, Disney is savage. It reminds me a lot of like the music industry back in the day where Napster and like LimeWire was coming up and like they were suing like fans or the people who are posting it. And it's like, how are you going to get anywhere isolating your fandom? Like the fact that there is a Redbubble dedicated to an obscure comic book look, like ride the
Oh,
wave, sis. That knows that shows you've made it.
I know, just like embrace it. But the mouse did not get where the mouse is by letting copyright violations fall by the wayside. Like Mickey will get his money.
I
Uh,
just picture, oh my God, I'm totally forgetting where was it? Was it South Park where one of the characters is like, I got like turned with Mickey Mouse, and it just shows him like having a debaucherous night with like Mickey, and Mickey just being like this like fucking like awful like party animal who like,
yeah, he shows up in like South Park, and then they get involved in like the weed business with like Randy.
yes, there we go.
Yeah,
Sorry, I literally have only so much real estate in my head for pop culture and like comic book stuff. So everything just goes out the window when I'm consuming other media.
yeah. Like I have big like gaps. My media knowledge will be like, oh yeah, like 80s sitcoms, and then like nothing like post 2000. And you know what? I'm okay. I've made my peace with that.
I forgot who I was talking to the other day. I was trying to remember Donald Blake, and I was just like, Thor's secret identity back in the day, the Doctor, and like it just like I don't know, man. It's like I compare it to like being this little teacup and like buckets of like water being like poured into it, and stuff just spills out and you forget it. Sadly.
Oh yeah, like I can't tell you like where I parked, but I I can give you like detailed history of like the golden age Human Torch, but like where's my car? I don't
I
know.
don't. Well, I don't even have a car, so you're one step ahead of the game there.
You got to be in it to win it.
But it's funny you said it because we rented a car this weekend and we went to Ohio, as you know, and we parked the car in like a rest stop and I had the keys and I was coming out and I went up to a different car trying to open it. And my husband was like, that's not our car. This is a white car. We're driving a red car. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know where it's I parked it. And he's here like, you have to hit the panic button to find it. And I was like, y'all do sabes. There you go. So
Yeah, you know.
sigh. We haven't actually spoken about Loki.
No.
How do you
Uh,
feel about it? Tell me all your feels.
um, I have. I think this is the best of the MCU shows so far.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
I think the pacing's really good. They hit all the right character notes. There's a ton of like references for like Marvel fanboys like us, and there's just like there's all it feels to me a lot more I don't know, like confident than some of like the earlier stuff, which was like Falcon and Winter Soldier I enjoyed a lot, but that could have also just been like a movie, like a Captain America
Yeah,
movie.
I agree.
um you know WandaVision.
How did you feel about WandaVision?
I mean, other than her like terrorizing a small town in New Jersey,
It's
like
personal for you.
it's it's personal. Yeah. She, like I genuinely I enjoyed WandaVision, but I felt it towards the end it dragged a little. Um, but like I've really enjoyed, like you can see, and this builds off of some of what WandaVision did with like the multiversal sort of stuff, and like I think it's going in really interesting directions.
Yeah, I feel like the new thing right now is it's Mephisto is over. It's Kang because that's the only thing I could think of coming out of this episode was where's Kang? And I don't want to be a clown. I don't want to put on like my clown makeup and stuff like that. But I do think I'm forgetting like how the production schedule worked because I know WandaVision had to come back and do a couple more reshoots or exterior shots after the pandemic or during the pandemic, whatever. I don't know where Loki was at in production. I did know a couple episodes ago, but I don't know now. Um, but I feel like maybe they were able to learn from some of their missteps with WandaVision and like kind of carry that over. So I'm hoping that maybe we are going to get a big like Kang-ish reveal. I agree with what you said about Falcon and the Winter Soldier wholeheartedly. I thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier was good,
Yeah.
but not to the level of WandaVision or Loki for that matter. I still have to see how Loki's going to play out, but I do personally gravitate towards Loki a bit more just because it deals with some themes and ideas and an aesthetic that I like much more. But I love, as you know, I'm a crazy Wanda stan as well. So
Yeah, I mean, we can respect those differences.
you must have had such a good week last week
Oh,
after the ending of X Factor.
when we go live on Wednesday,
This day.
I will have so many thoughts and prayers. Uh,
I can't believe you just said thoughts and prayers on this show, knowing I'm a Wanda stan. You bitch.
um, but well, on that happy note, um, I think like one of the things, like you were saying with like Kang, one of the great things with like the time angle is like Kang's whole shtick is like he's from the 30th century, but then he goes into the 40th century, and he's also in ancient Egypt, and he fights Apocalypse, and like you get all these different like there's Kang is like on multiple places in the timeline, so like you could even it doesn't even have to be Kang, it could be like Rama Tut, or it could be like Immortus, like super old Kang, and it's like there's a lot of different like ways you could go with this, but like again, I don't want to be like the Mephisto guy who's like, oh yeah, like Mephisto's in Agatha's wallpaper or whatever. uh, but like I think you can do a lot with like the Kang and like time travel sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think we have the only reason why I'm starting to think of Kang was because of this episode with the Wizard of Oz reveal that, these are just puppets, who is a puppet master here, right? And Renslayer. I thought Renslayer a little later on in the series, by this point at least, she probably would be like, oh, who are the timekeepers? Like, let me start challenging this. But we know Kang is coming. He's been casted. And we have Renslayer, who seems very devout and more in the loop in the conversation than we initially thought. So it's kind of hard not to think that. And also because Michael Waldron is, the series creator here, and he's a writer for Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. So I think we have a lot of connections happening here. I feel like this Loki in general is doing what we thought WandaVision will do, which is introduce like the variants and the timeline and everything. I don't know. I guess maybe we're going to see a marriage of that come, Doctor Strange 2 with what went on with Wanda and now this. But this is definitely, I feel, what I'm gravitating towards Loki, and what I'm so excited about Loki for is that it's actually going there with the story.
Completely agree, and like you said with like Renslayer, I mean they finally say her first name in this past episode, and it's Ravonna, and that's Kang's girlfriend from the 60s, and it's like
Which I didn't know.
you're dropping your Fantastic Four lore. I mean,
Sorry.
yeah.
I didn't know as I down my rosé.
Um, yeah, like I really like the like you said, it feels like it's building up towards like Doctor Strange 2 and the sort of like the multiversal aspects. And I mean all the Spider-Man rumors with like there's gonna be like it's gonna be like Spider-Man 3, too many Spider-Men. Like they're definitely doing the variant angle.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the variant angle, to be quite honest with you. Like, I think it's a great opportunity to bring in the other Sony Spider-Man, for example. If we're going to go the Spider-Verse route, fine, sure. But I don't know. I feel like DC has gotten there in their movies time and time again, and in the CW shows, especially with the Infinite Crisis Earth, which what was that, 2018, 2019? I don't remember. But um so I don't know. I always thought that was kind of weird to have like another actor play your established actor and like divide the fandom like that and gravitating towards something. But I trust Kevin Feige quite a bit. I do think Kevin Feige is a brilliant producer. I think he's given us the MCU, and I think he's kept things pretty streamlined so far. I don't think the casual viewer would be thrown off by Loki.
No, not at all. By multiple and multiple Lokis, like you're not going to lose track of,
Yeah.
especially when like people know who like the main Loki is already.
Mhm.
It's not like this is a new character. He's been around since in this form 2012. Like, yeah.
Because people could be confused. And again, like I always measure it by like my family in Florida, where I'm like, can they follow along with this? Not because I think anything. They're very smart. My dad is a lawyer. He's brilliant. However, I always try to gauge how can they follow like the lore of the comic books, and they've been able to digest that the Loki we saw in Endgame died, or Infinity War, excuse me, he died. This is taken from earlier in the timeline, from that scene in Endgame, the 2012 Loki, and now he has multiple variants across the multiverse, and the different universes will have a different Loki, and that's surprisingly very digestible. And which a couple years ago you would try to explain this to someone, and their heads would spin. They would not understand it at all.
Oh yeah. Like trying to explain, like I mean stuff like Kang the Conqueror and
Mhm.
multiple places in the future and the past and like that people would like know, and now you find people on Twitter who 20 years ago would have been dismissed as like casuals by comic book nerds arguing over like, is this Kang the Conqueror?
Yeah.
And like that's mind blowing.
There are TikTok videos dedicated. Alicia from The Ex-Wife is always talking about TikTok videos and the theories. Like, that's how digestible this information is right
Yeah.
now.
um well, what did you think about like the appearance of, speaking of Florida, like Florida Gator?
I love that meme you posted, by the way. I thought it was hysterical.
He'll get you.
He'll get you. We'll talk about it later on, but I don't think it's a reference to anything particular other than like Frog
Yeah.
Thor. Um, but I thought it was, oh man, I meant to grab I have an alligator taxidermed head because I'm from Florida, and you just have those growing up, but I meant to show it to you. But um, yeah, like the post credit scene, I was genuinely happy with. It was spoiled for me. I don't mind spoilers. I like spoilers. People post them. I look at them. I was genuinely surprised with other parts of this episode, which I didn't see were coming. And one of them being Sif, the other one being Mobius dying. Those genuinely caught me off guard. But seeing the variant Lokis, I knew it was coming, and I thought it was fucking awesome. I mean, you had Richard E. Grant right there in that ridiculous Loki costume,
Yeah.
looking hot as fuck.
I'm all about like the ridiculous, like my aesthetic is like ridiculous golden age and silver age designs, and for him to show up as like classic Loki, and to get like a serious like dramatic actor, and it's just go hog wild with it, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I literally cackled when I saw that, like Wicked Witch of the West cackled. uh, that made my day.
One of my favorite YouTubers, beyond the trailer, Grace Randolph, said that Richard E. Grant was just serving it. And I agree with her. I thought he looked absolutely wonderful. I thought Kid Loki, Jack Veal, looked really great. I'm interested in it. And the Loki Thor hybrid, played by Dobea Opere, I thought looked really great too. I tried looking to see if that was a reference to anyone in the comics. I don't think it is yet. So we at least have two there, Alligator Loki and like Loki slash Thor. And I'm calling him Loki slash Thor because he had like a hammer contraption or something. I think he's billed as something else in the credits. Let me look that up.
Boastful Loki.
Yes, boastful Loki. He didn't look very boastful to me.
No, but
Let's see.
we shall see.
Let me see. I'm looking up this image to see if I can. Does he look boastful? He doesn't not look boastful.
No, I don't know like what constitutes like boastful for a Loki. So yeah, I will reserve judgment on the boastfulness. But, yeah, like I a lot of the notes in the episode, like you mentioned, like Sif coming back. Um, love that, especially if she's going to be in Thor, Love and Thunder.
Is she confirmed for Love and Thunder?
I think so. This might also be because the crown is squeezing the blood flow to my head. But
You look a little flushed.
I always look a little flushed. I'm not built for the heat.
My guy, I know. I was out right before we hit record. I went out to get some rosé, and it was like 85 degrees. And even I, like again, a Florida boy, I grew up like on Cayo Ocho, literally 100-degree weather, and even I was like, it's kind of hot.
As soon as it hits like 65, I start to melt. And,
Shit.
with climate,
Protect that fair skin, your snow white skin.
yeah, I'm like SPF like 500. It does nothing. But I think she's going to be in it, and like it was a really nice callback to obviously like Asgard and all that, and like I agree with you, like the Mobius death shocked me. Um,
Well, so here's the thing. It shocked me, but now we know that once they get pruned, is that the terminology? When they get like erased, they go somewhere else. So it's not even death for them. This is like the afterlife or something like that. So I'm curious now that we know that everyone working for the TVA are variants, is he a variant of someone? I was going to say Thor. I think he's a variant of Thor. He's Donald Blake or whatever. So I'm thinking he may be a variant of Thor, maybe Donald Blake, maybe he's a Loki variant, right? That's another theory that's going on. After WandaVision, I don't want to be the clown anymore. I don't feel there's anything wrong with being a clown, and I think for WandaVision they asked for it. I mean, Kevin Feige was like, yeah, this is just chapter one in a much larger story. So,
I mean, he could be Mephisto.
He could be Mephisto. I mean, episode one, man, when we had the little girl with the blue tongue pointing at, I was like, Mephisto, right there.
In the church. Done. Wrap it up. But yeah, like I mean, some of the more I don't know if they're outlandish theories, like I've heard like the place where Loki wakes up at the end is actually like Battle World from Secret Wars and all that, and that's where the variants that get pruned end up. But I was like, that's a little maybe too complex at this point.
I think Secret Wars is coming. I think this is just one piece of the larger puzzle. Like, I think our road now is to Secret Wars, like our road to Endgame was. But did you notice what was in the background of that dystopian landscape they found themselves in?
No.
The Avengers Tower. The Avengers Tower was there.
And
it was destroyed and ruined. So I don't know. I mean, maybe this is just like an alt world where they just like dump all of the erased variants and erased scenarios, right? I don't know. Again, like I need to see more of this world. I still don't understand what happens when the Minutemen put down their bomb and it goes from orange to purple? I'm forgetting the way it goes, but it sort of just like explodes. But like, does that erase the timeline? Does it just reset the timeline? Because purple is to neutralize. The color purple, when they have their batons, is to neutralize. Orange is to erase. And so the bombs have a different color scheme once they go off. I don't get it. I have to sit back, watch the entire series once it's done, and like overanalyze everything. But as of right now, I'm still kind of confused how all that works. But I trust them enough where it's not going to be inconsistent. Does that make sense?
No, that I mean that completely makes sense with the whole thing. Like I don't think they're gonna do something this like complicated and then sort of drop the ball on like that, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Um yeah, like I mean one of the other theories, and this could fit like depending on how much they've drawn on like Agents of Asgard, is like the the threat isn't like Kang, it's another variant of Loki. Uh,
Mm.
who I everyone should read Agents of Asgard. It's brilliant. Um, but like there is a another variant of Loki who is perhaps a little nefarious, and like there's some comic readers who think it might be that version of
That
Loki.
that actually would make perfect sense because they're hunting Loki variants.
Yes.
Two of the antagonists for the TVA are Lokis. And if you want to really flip this plot on its head, the one controlling, the timekeepers is a Loki variant. Which
Yeah.
which Loki variant is it? Let me see.
Uh, King Loki or
Oh, King.
Eichel. And like I could see it. It would fit with like Loki's like schemes upon schemes. It would also fit with like the destroyed world because he's one.
I
uh,
agree 100%. I'm looking at images of him now and I'm just quickly skimming his bio. Yes, absolutely. I think now Eichel is going to be unveiled at the end.
yeah. I think it's a possibility. And yeah, that's you know what I'm gonna, just as I called Wanda dying, I'm gonna call.
I remember that morning Wanda died. Sidebar. We'll save this for the live. Never mind. But you were not very nice. You were like, "Have you read X Factor yet?" And I'm like,
uh,
"I have." And I think I bet you have a pretty like smug smile on your face right now.
well, Mephisto finally got her.
You know who really stood out to me in this episode? I thought this was one of the best episodes in the Disney Plus series so far. I did not like last episode as much. Last episode, for whatever reason, slowed the plot down, in my opinion. I had a lot of questions. I'm like, why don't they just teleport to the Ark or whatever, or get off the planet? I don't know how their powers work, admittedly. I'm a little confused by all of that. I know they're limited when they have like the mutant collars on, but last episode, it just didn't resonate with me. Sophia DeMartino, I believe is her name, who plays Sylvie. I was like, not I don't want to throw shade at her, but I think if you're going to be acting opposite of Tom Hiddleston, there's a lot you have to kind of go with. I thought she brought it in this episode. I thought she was great in this episode, and I proudly eat my words. But she was a real star for me, Sylvie, and I love the opening with Kid Sylvie on Asgard playing and saying something to the effect like, "Oh, the Valkyries saved the day," and then the TVA, which is Renslayer at the time, comes in and like takes her because she's causing a Nexus event.
And just it then like her background makes sense where she had hinted at earlier that she didn't really grow up with normal parents or anything, and whereas Loki was like, oh yeah, I had like a mother, and she was just like no. And yeah, it was you kind of understand a little bit more why she hates the TVA a little bit, a little bit.
Little bit un poquitico. Well, she said she's here like, okay, so we don't really get an answer as to why the TVA came and swept her in. I think she implies it's because she's the female goddess, of mischief. And so I guess it's the idea that she was born female and that somehow created a Nexus event. But she does ask Renslayer at the end, like, what was it that I did that caused you to come in? And Renslayer, fuck, man, like you really want to get under someone's skin. It was just like, I don't remember. And the thing is, she does remember. She
Yeah.
does. And she's saying that purposely. And I'm shocked that that's what that's what Sylvie's reaction was, because Sylvie's reaction was genuine hurt. But if I was in a situation like that, I would be like, you do remember, and you're just being a fucking asshole about it. Like, fuck you, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, Renslayer also did just see her bosses, who she may or may not have known were androids, probably get their heads lopped off. So I'll give her a little bit of benefit of the doubt on that. But I mean, otherwise, I completely agree. It's the ultimate kind of just like F you, where she's just like, I don't even remember you. And yeah, I mean, that's one way to kick people.
How do you feel about Sylvie in general, though? How have you felt about Sofia de Martino's acting, portrayal of the character? How do you feel about her positioning in the Loki series?
I think her acting has been really good. She
Mhm.
plays against Tom Hiddleston really well. Where she's, one of the first characters in the series, in the MCU, to like just sort of push back by being like equally like smug,
Mhm.
if that makes sense, against like Loki. It's not like Thor, like boasting whatever Thor does, or Captain America. You have another character who understands the way that like Loki thinks and like operates, and just sort of like pushes back on like some of his like crap, basically. Like the scene where they go to visit like the old woman, and like Loki just gets like shot by her, and it's just like, yeah, she expected that, and just sort of stays out of the way. And it's like, I think they have like a really good dynamic. As for like the character, I know like there's been some talk that she was like the Enchantress, um, which I could see, but it seems like they pretty much made her just like Loki.
Mhm.
Um, and it's an interesting take on the character. And there's been female Lokis or Loki in the comics, so it's not like this is something like totally new. That's
Yeah.
gonna piss off the neckbeards, but yeah.
Yeah, I think what I've seen other people reporting on was that Marvel didn't want to commit to Enchantress and didn't want to commit to Lady Loki, so they created this hybrid and named her Sylvie, which is obviously an alias for the Enchantress. I I would be disappointed if Sylvie turned out to be Lady Loki, which I would have loved it to have been Jamie Alexander, because comic book accurate, and I love that. But also like Enchantress, I think her portrayal is too smart for
Yeah.
Enchantress. I think when I think of Enchantress, I think of smoldering temptress, like that kind of like a female Thor, just very over the top personality, governed by power, not necessarily intellect, if that makes any sense. Kind of like a Chris Hemsworth ish actress playing. But I agree with everything you said. Again, I wasn't sold on Sofia DiMartino's performance last episode. This episode, I thought she nailed it, and I understood why Loki was in love with her. I love that the thing that saves them from the Lamentis apocalypse is that they kind of fall in love with each other, and two Lokis falling in love with each other when an apocalypse is supposed to be like wiping the slate clean, nothing can save you from it, is two Lokis falling in love, and that's what saves them. That's like the universe is like Loki finding love, especially with themselves, is so cataclysmic that you need to come in and get them, and it registers.
Well, yeah, it's also like the most Loki thing, that Loki falls in love with Loki, which is like the ultimate like narcissistic like wish fulfillment, especially for a character that is just 99% like ego, like Loki. And I loved it. I loved everything about it. And it's like that, like you said, that's like what is big enough to cause like a disruption on the timeline, and it's hilarious.
It reminded me of the Interstellar theme, which Interstellar is one of my favorite movies. I mean, if not my favorite movie, where, the main theme here is love is what transcends, time, space, and in the universe. And like that's literally what saves them. And I'm fine with it. Let's see where it goes. I still think she may be playing him. I don't know. It just depends on like where the ending is going to go. I am also curious what Sylvie's end game is because yes, I mean, listen, I understand. She was abducted as a child
Yeah.
and she spent her entire life living at apocalypse scenarios. I would hold a huge vendetta against the timekeepers and wanting to bring them down and everything. But what does she hope to accomplish in the end? Like the sacred timeline there'll be anarchy and chaos, or dare I say madness? You know, I'm just curious if Sylvie has thought it through. Like, does she want to take on the mantle of a timekeeper?
Yeah. Or is it just, sort of like naive, like freedom, and you don't really think of like, yes, freedom's obviously good, but you don't think of the consequences.
Yeah.
And also like, it's also funny, ironic, probably intentionally, that when we first see Loki in the Avengers, he's trying to take away people's free will,
Hmm.
and I'm burdened with glorious purpose and all of that, and it's like he's going to bend everyone's will, and remove decision making, remove thought, and then you get now Sylvie and Loki are trying to overthrow the TVA, which is a controlling, like, domineering agency, and you get the sort of full 180, um, which is character growth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where everything's going to go. We know there's going to be a season two that's already been announced or rumored, or Wikipedia has confirmed it. I don't know which one's which, but I hope they do change the landscape of it. I think this is going to play. Kevin Feige was just giving an interview from the Black Widow red carpet, and he was asked about the Disney Plus shows and what they do versus the movies, and he stopped the interviewer being like, there is no TV show, there is no movie, there's no separation of these two ideologies. This is the MCU. Everything is fucking connected right now, and we're going to show different pockets of it. They have their own unique perspective and flair, but it's part of a much larger picture. So I'm curious if what we're going to see happen in Loki is going to affect, like you were just saying, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, and then maybe a season two will deal with the fallout of that. And are we going to start exploring like Battle World or something like that, or whatever like the next big like event is going to be?
Yeah. And like Spider-Man 4, Spider-Man gets like the symbiote, and then Venom, and Spider-Man 5, too many symbiotes. um it'll be interesting to see, like you said, how they build on it. It'll also be interesting to see with like the next wave of like TV shows, which some of which are not on like the sort of epic scale, like Loki or WandaVision, or even like Falcon and Winter Soldier, who are Avengers or Avengers adjacent. You're going to get like Moon Knight and like She-Hulk, and these characters that are a little more, dare I say, like street level, and a little more in the vein of like the Netflix series, RIP. Like, how are they going to grow that out of like this? Because like yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like Kevin Feige said, or it's like there's no separation between the movies and the shows. It's all the MCU. And as it continues to move forward, as they branch out like different directions, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
I'm wait. Let me do a quick sidebar. How did you feel about the Netflix shows?
Absolutely loved Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. Season 1 of Luke Cage. Season 2 was uneven.
Yeah.
Um, Iron Fist was one of the worst things Marvel
Scott
has.
Buck Buick, whatever Scott's name is, who also gave us the Inhumans. Like, no,
Yeah.
like I'm sorry, that was
Uh,
awful. It was
it was,
so bad. Season two, they tried. I did like season two, and I liked his performance. Oh my God, Finn Jones in the Defenders. And I still I'm perplexed how he couldn't nail Danny because he is a barefoot millionaire, billionaire, whatever, like hippie celebrity who lives out of like a airstream. Like he was born to be a version of Danny. I don't know why he couldn't bring that to the screen. I think it was more writing and not so much his charisma.
writing and like writing and pacing and trying to like fit it in with the other series wasn't wasn't great. I mean, I really hope they integrate like maybe not Iron Fist, but like the other um, Netflix shows now that they have the rights again, like into
Yeah.
um, yeah the MCU a bit more. Um,
Well, Charlie Cox is rumored for Spider-Man 3 and She-Hulk.
yeah, as Spider-Man's attorney.
Attorney. How do you feel about that?
You know, Daredevil. Daredevil is one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters. He, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. He doesn't have a great track record as an attorney. In Daredevil comics, he's been disbarred like 5 or 6 times. But Spider-Man can't afford She-Hulk, so you work with what you can get.
I love when you say that. That's like my favorite thing you've ever said.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, I think like particularly Loki is setting up like things to go in all these different directions and to see different like takes on parts of the MCU and you know whether it's more grounded or more like ridiculous. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. And I think something the Disney Plus shows have done well this round. And I always have to try to like remember they're in their infancy and they're just testing the waters. They're trying to redo, I don't want to say redo television, but they're redoing the way we consume narratives from, these big franchises. So no longer do we have to wait for the movies. We can actually tune in weekly like you would a comic book on these Disney Plus shows. So we may not have gotten like Thor, Captain America, or Doctor Strange in this round of shows, but we got, we got someone like Jamie Alexander, for example. And I think that's a character that's been MIA. She's going to be in Thor, Love and Thunder. But last time we saw her was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I'm glad that Kevin Feige was like, yo, come back, because she was not in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And, it was a really great. I'm trying to see how I can explain this. It was a really nice way of bringing in the character while also respecting the character's like roots in the comics, because obviously Loki is responsible for cutting and dyeing her hair black. I mean, they didn't mention the black tar or whatever, but he cut her hair, and that obviously is from, mythology as well. So I love that scene. I love that she was there. I think she did a great job. And I think we can expect more cameos coming forward. Do you think that's the only cameo we're going to get? Do we think we're going to get something like an Anthony Hopkins? Do we think we're going to get a Chris Hemsworth in this? Do we think we're going to get anyone else?
I think that's probably going to be the biggest. Yeah, I don't know if Chris Hemsworth. I think we will see Thor. I don't think it will necessarily be like our our Thor, just with like all the variants. Um, I mean, so like maybe I don't know if I mean Anthony Hopkins. I don't think he's like left his home since COVID started. So I
They're
don't.
going to zoom him in.
Yeah, they'll zoom Odin in. Um, but I think it would be neat to Hemsworth appearance would be great, but I think it would be neat to see like some of the variant like Thors.
Yeah.
Like we already have like ridiculous like classic Loki. Give me like ridiculous like 1960s like Thor with like
Yeah.
the Shakespearean like over the top dialogue and just ridiculous costume. Just go full bore, like full Kirby like stuff.
I agree. I hope that's what we're gonna get. Like again, like my theory is that Mobius is a variant of Thor, and that's my own clown theory there. But I agree. I think we're gonna see some other variant of established like MCU characters. What did you think of Kid Loki in the end? Do we think that's a sign that Young Avengers is coming?
I mean, they have what all of them now except for they have all the
Hulkling,
classic Young Avengers teed up except for Iron
Hulkling,
Lad.
Iron
Yeah,
Lad, Hulkling.
yeah, they've got Iron Lad and Hulkling are the two that are like missing, and
Yeah.
Kate Bishop's going to be in Hawkeye,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, I think this is it's coming. I mean, you just need the X-Men in, and then you can get Prodigy and have the full.
Oh, I love that volume to run so much. I was just rereading it the other week because I posted a photo of it on the Power of X-Men like Insta feed. It's such a great run. I love Kieran Gillian.
It's like it's a great run. You get the Young Avengers. If Wanda goes crazy, or in Doctor Strange 2, and you can have your whole Children's Crusade.
Yes.
You know, get your Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom in there. It'll be great. Um,
Do you know what we have failed to mention though when we're talking about Kang, Fantastic Four, all these other things? Mobius mentioned vampires.
yes, vampires are real.
Vampires are real in the MCU.
Yeah, and vampires. You'll get your Dracula. I mean, like Dracula is a big Marvel villain, and it always cracks me up to like say that, but it's like you can get your Dracula, you can get your when they eventually bring in the X-Men, you can get all the weird X-Men shit with vampires from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, especially with Storm and Apocalypse.
Yeah, Storm, Apocalypse. I mean, hell, Jubilee was a vampire for like
Oh,
5 6 years.
it's funny. I bitch about that all the time, and I always forget about it because our God Queen's parasitic cosmic force is the one that cleansed her from it.
I mean, she was reborn in Jean's belly, everything. Oh yeah, like also vampires. You get Blade.
Yeah, Blade's
Um,
coming, and we know Blade is. That was one of the biggest announcements pre-pandemic, and I don't think we've gotten a Blade update since.
no, I don't think there's been any Blade news. And you get vampires with Moon Knight.
We know Moon Knight's coming.
Moon Knight's coming.
You're a huge Moon Knight fan.
I am. He sits on my desk.
Oh my god!
Yeah, no, like he's big with werewolves. I want to see him punch a werewolf. I want to see Oscar Isaac punch a werewolf. That's what I want. Um, he actually Moon Knight first appeared in a bad Marvel horror comic in the 70s, Werewolf by Night, and just go full bore. Let's do it. You have vampires, bring in the werewolves.
Yeah, I think this episode did so well at setting up so much and like dropping like small little concepts there for all of us to like ruminate and digest. And I think that's, with WandaVision, I love WandaVision. I loved WandaVision. I enjoyed it very much. The one thing I'm going to say about it was that it felt a little safe for me in the end. I felt like the story was a little bit predictable now looking back on it. But I think coming together and being able to theorize every week, where's Mephisto, who is, Evan Peters, Quicksilver, I thought really did so much for the fan community, and especially during this global pandemic where we were all going crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think Marvel was equipped at knowing how big the speculation was going to be for WandaVision. I feel they course corrected with Loki. And I feel like we can speculate and they're going to deliver on some levels here. Again, I don't think we're going to get Kang or anything like that, but I think we will see this fit into a larger piece of the puzzle. And that was like my only complaint also about WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I've gotten in so much trouble for saying this in the past, but I keep repeating it over and over again. I do feel the shows can be skippable. I don't think they are necessary. You want to look at like character development. You want to see where these characters are, those little nuts and bolts. Yes, absolutely. They're great stories. However, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, all you can draw a line from Endgame to wherever the next Captain America movie is going to be. And yeah, you can experience Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. And similarly with like WandaVision, I mean, it just ends with her with a new suit, which presumably we'll see in Doctor Strange. But
Yeah. And they apparently they changed the ending scene too. I don't know if you've seen it. They changed the final scene of WandaVision, where it's still the same setup. She's still in the cabin, but you can see somebody flying. There's a shadow of somebody coming towards the cabin and some other stuff.
oh, I didn't. Wait, what do you mean they changed it? Like they updated the ending
They
on?
updated the ending on Netflix.
Oh,
Not Netflix. Wow, this is cutting off the blood supply of my
I
brain.
am embarrassed. Oh my God. I can't believe you just called Disney Plus Netflix.
I mean, they'll they'll sue. I mean, they're gonna sue me for the T-shirt anyway.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. Who do we think that is? I'm sorry. I love how this turned into a WandaVision speculation.
I mean, I think Doctor Strange.
Oh, I'm gonna go
Um,
back and rewatch this now. So they updated the ending, the post-credit scene.
yeah. At the very last bit, there's some just like changes to like the lighting and like you can see some shadows.
Okay. I'm
Um,
gonna check that out. I'm gonna check. I mean, now you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna finish this bottle of rosé and go like hit pause obsessively and try to capture it and post it on the Instagram now. Thank you for that.
no, I'm happy to help. Um, yeah, no, it's like I agree with you where it's like some like I really enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like you said, you could probably just go straight to Captain America 4 without having seen it. Um, it felt like a nice sort of like interlude, but something that you don't necessarily need to watch.
Right. And I'm not coming at this from like a fan perspective because obviously as a fan, I think you should consume everything. But
Oh
like
yeah,
just looking at this from an editorial writing story perspective where you have to like streamline stuff, like I just feel like these were done. I feel like WandaVision and Falcon were done very safe, just in case these didn't work out or for whatever reason, where they weren't necessarily pertinent to the larger story. I feel Loki is the opposite. I feel like if you want to understand what's going to be going forward in the MCU, you got to watch Loki. You
yeah,
know, so that's the only note I had on those two.
yeah. Like I think like thematically, like they were great. They dealt with the themes and, like WandaVision of like loss and like mental illness, and in Falcon and Winter Soldier with like the very complicated like imagery of Captain America and what it means to be
Systemic
Captain
racism
America,
and
racism,
trauma.
trauma, like super um, well done and handled, and like John Walker and everything. But like you said, like they played them very safe, whereas like
Yeah.
this is like crisis of multiple Lokis, and there's a lot of like moving parts.
So that was another thing I've tried. Like if I can boil down, and this goes back to like the Dark Knight Nolan series, where you can boil down every movie to one word. And I think with, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's about systemic racism, it's about trauma. With, WandaVision, it's about grief. What do you think Loki ultimately is about? Like, what do you think it boils down to?
Um, See, I don't know if it's necessarily like redemption because this Loki didn't go through the full experience that the Loki who died in Endgame went through, Infinity. the Loki who died went through. Um, but I think there is like an angle of like redemption and almost sort of like growing up.
Yeah.
Um, is like even like coming to Earth to try to conquer it was sort of like a lark for Loki. Like or they show in the flashbacks when he's DB Cooper hijacking the plane.
I
Like
have been obsessed with DB Cooper for like decades of my life. Like I have stayed up at nighttime. I've known about the bills. I have such a weird fascination with like flying and like anything that can go wrong with flying. Knock on wood. And DB Cooper, when I saw that in the promos, and then obviously when it was in the first episode, I was like, yes.
yeah. It like I think you can like at least so far some of it's like sort of just growing up and like actually accepting like responsibility for things and trying to be a little better.
Hmm.
um
Well, when we look at two of the main flashbacks we've seen of his life, one being the DB Cooper, the other being, him cutting Sif's hair. And he point blank says it in the scene that like I just want attention. I'm always afraid of being alone. I think it's really true what you said about him kind of owning up his past and having to grow up. Maybe he's gonna battle President Loki, is the person behind the time variant. He's going to fight him, and he ends up having to now take on the responsibility of guarding the sacred timeline. I don't know. I really don't know, but I think there is an element of growth here. I regret it. I was talking about this with my friend Randy, who does the Milkshake Scholar, and I did my MFA program with. I cited. I felt like, and I hate to cite it again. I cited the Fountainhead. I'm like Falcon. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Fountainhead, which it's not a novel I particularly like, nor do I agree with the author's purpose and themes in it. But I think the idea of the individual versus society, or in this case, Loki versus the universe, and trying to prove individualism and rising above the grain to sort of accomplish your own feats. That's sort of where I got it. But like again, like I like what you're saying much better because I think it's there, but I still can't boil Loki down to just one concept. And maybe that's something that's exclusive to WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I feel there's something there with Loki, and I think I just have to see it towards the end to like sort of decipher that.
yeah, I think it's still early enough. I mean, it's what, going to be 8 episodes, I
I
think.
think six.
6 maybe.
Oh. She's the first one. She's the first one of the Disney Plus series to have a season 2 at least sort of confirmed.
Yeah. Because there isn't going to be a second season of WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier so far.
Yeah,
So
the sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier is Captain America 4.
yeah,
That is the sequel to. Hang on, I'm just going back to see the production notes for Loki season 2. But oh my god! By the way, sidebar, I love that I called it Falconhead.
Falcon Head. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't read that book since I was like in middle school, or not middle school, high school.
I mean, the main like outside thing I had wanted to mention was like the King Loki stuff, because I think just with like what we were talking about with like if there is a theme of like growth and like being a better person, I don't know, like I think the perfect like final villain is essentially a grown up, like an older, shittier version of yourself. A Loki who has gotten everything he's wanted is just like multiversal levels of terrible, and like it fits with the whole sort of like arc.
I think you called it. I honestly think you called it because we have Sylvie, who sort of represents the better aspects of Loki, and he falls in love with her himself. And then you have what would be the ultimate villain is the pure Loki id. or King Loki in this case. And it's a Loki he needs to take down, and he needs to bring that down in order to achieve some level of happiness or balance. If we're truly to root for him as a hero, he first has to conquer his own self, which I think is the greatest villain of this series thus far. So I agree with you. I think you nailed it. My mind is blown. And you called it, folks. Mr. Scott Free called it first yet again.
I try.
Scott, what exciting projects do you have on the horizon?
I've got a couple new cosplays in the works. Possibly something bigger at the end of the summer.
Okay.
But you'll just have to have me back on to talk about my favorite topic, which is me.
I I love you so much. It's so funny. Like every time we have you on, or every time I tag you in something, the amount of DMs I get about you, like it's next level.
And like only half of them are from me.
That's right. That's right. Before it was all of them. Now it's just half. I mean, you've really grown, but I just every time I talk to someone and your name comes up, we always talk about your sass, your wit, and your ability to like really look at these narratives. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Not bad for a bitch with no talent.
Yeah, it looks pretty good for the dead bitch.
I'm sorry, not bad for a low-key bitch with no talent.
There we go. There's the
And so where can folks at home connect with you? Where can they find you on the webs?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, as at Mr. Scott Free. I am constantly on the internet, so be there.
It's such a problem. I noticed this last trip, the entire time I was like this. Like just playing on my phone. It's like, it's insane. I'm like, I've given up on reality. This is my reality right here with like my little Kenzo like cover.
Like the pandemic just made it like 1,000 times worse. And like, it's good and bad, like very strong online presence, but it's also just like there are times where I just need to like decompress.
It's funny. I am a freelance editor for a literary magazine, and I'm behind on a deadline. And I'm like, I should really get to this because they're actually paying me money to do this. I'm like, but I need to post like this comparison shot of Pietro holding Wanda to the Dark Phoenix. Like that's a little bit more. My priorities are so misplaced right now.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I should go like food shopping or something, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like arguing with somebody about like Wonder Man on like Reddit, and I'm like, yeah, I'm living my best life.
I love Reddit. I don't participate anymore, and it's funny. I don't, with the exception of some stuff recently, I don't really get into arguments with people on the Instagram or the online world anymore because I'm just like, meh, like.
Yeah, I don't have the energy for it.
I'm just like, I can't. Although I was really angry at this Reddit user called Suki, who apparently was billed as like the know-it-all of what's going to happen in WandaVision and posted all of these like spoilers. And their cred was because they had gotten a few right at the beginning. And then once obviously their speculation and theories didn't come to fruition, they disappeared off of Reddit. But it was something like Wanda's going to use the powers we saw in Age of Ultron to read Pietro's mind, and in it we're going to see the Days of Future Past timeline. And I was like, motherfucker, yes, that sounds incredible. And no, that's not what happened. Oh, and then of course the astrophysicist, he said it was going to be Reed.
It's going to be Reed because they're just going to casually introduce like Reed Richards and like, yeah, I like Reddit. Reddit is both like great and terrible for stuff like that, where it's like you'll find people who are like super passionate about their topics, and then there's also just like making it up.
Yeah, my thing is, I love people who are super passionate. I just don't appreciate flat out lies. But what really Here's the other layer. It's not that someone just posted something that was flat out lie and I read it and I chose to believe it. Like Reddit themselves, like the Reddit mods, like kind of like elevated them and gave them their own like thread and everything. And that's where I started getting like angry. But since that, I try not to engage anymore um, with all that. Because I mean, like I've been doing it since I was like 12, 11. Like AOL keyword Marvel. Like I used to argue with some guy named Jules Verne. You know what I mean? Like always yelling at us. Like I'm done with that. That's why like I love talking to you because I think you have people that you can create a room, you can fill it up with people who are just smart, who are going to offer opinions, theories, and speculation, but by no means are they trying to like outweigh anyone else's opinion or what could possibly happen.
Yeah, and I also remember Windows 98 and AOL.
Did you have the version with Matthew Perry and Jennifer Aniston on the cover?
Oh
Oh no,
God,
that was just a tutorial video.
no.
Look that up.
Uh, I was like, yeah, no.
Wait, you said Windows 98. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Windows 95 because I'm a couple of years. I know it's hard to believe because I look so much younger than you. Um, I'm a couple years older than you.
And a Friends fan.
I am a Friends fan. Sigh, Mr. Scott Free. It's always a pleasure, and we will have you back. And we are doing an Instagram live on Wednesday. I'm probably airing this episode on Wednesday because synergy is a new word here at Power of X-Men. So, listeners, if you're listening to this right now and it's before 6:30 Eastern time, hop onto Instagram. Mr. Scott Free and I are going to be talking about the Pretender's death, X-Men 1, some Loki stuff. We'll probably like be girl, she died, and other fun stuff. And we want to engage in a conversation with you. So check us out, Mr. Scott Free and Power of X-Men on Instagram. All right, guys.
All right.
I am the Uncanny Dayspring signing off.